Hi everyone, welcome to today's REI Master webinar. If your microphones are not already muted, can I please ask you to do that now? The format for the webinar today will be a 1-hour informative session followed by some Q&A at the end. To submit your questions during the webinar, please use the chat forum. I believe it'll be on the right-hand side for you guys. For those who don't know me, my name's Kelly and I'm the Business Development Manager here at REI Master. I'd like to say thank you to everyone who's taken the time to join today. This webinar is aimed at providing you some key sales and marketing solutions for your business. Our guest speakers are from the team at Koncept Konnect, which we're excited to hear from today. Kim and Naomi have been in the industry for a number of years and are what we would call sales and marketing specialists. They have a wealth of knowledge and experience, and today we're lucky enough to obviously hear some of that advice from them. If you haven't already, I'd grab a pen and paper as I'll now hand you across to Naomi from Koncept Konnect.
Hi everyone, good morning. Thank you very much for coming to join us today. First up, I'm going to say we're a little bit nervous. We normally do this in tandem in front of you all in person, and sitting at home, as most of us are in an office or our lounge rooms, presenting is a little bit unnerving, but I'm sure you'll bear with us for today. So thanks, Kelly, for inviting us along. We are here to try and share some hints and tips and let you know a little bit about what we do in the industry as well. So enjoy your time here, ask us lots of questions, and feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, Naomi Pucko. There's not many of us around in the world. And I'll hand over to Kim to say hi and get us started for today. Thanks.
Kim, you just need to unmute your microphone.
Technology's got me already. Sorry, everybody, I was muted. And hello, everyone. Good morning. Kim Jeffrey from Koncept Konnect. Naomi Pucko and myself are going to present our sales and marketing webinar this morning for you guys to hopefully take away some tips and tricks on rates and who's who in the zoo and the OTAs. Just, you know, obviously we're all part of the tourism industry, and I know everyone's been very hard hit with the COVID restrictions with our industry that we've all had to battle since March. And, you know, really there's just probably a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel now we're starting to see, which hopefully some of this information we're going to present to you today will help you navigate that journey out of the tunnel. But, you know, the big thing about it is to stay positive and keep well through this journey. Thank you all. And I'll start off with our daily rates, and then Naomi will take over with the OTAs. So, look, you know, daily rates is always a challenge, and how to set them. What information do I need to gather? When do I adjust them? How do I know what to do? And look, you know, even more so now in this climate we're in, it's really hard to understand how we can sort of like base our rates moving forward. So these are just going to be some hints and tips on what we think will help you. But just bear in mind, as we set our rates, it's a lot of trial and error, and there's a lot of changes that you may need to make along that way as well, which we'll talk about as we go. So just the first slide on this, we're going to just flick through to now, and that's going to be about data. So our first slide is on data and how important that is. I know we've talked about this on slides in quite a lot of instances, but without data, you know, we're not going to be able to know how our business is sitting in the market in general. It's the heart of every hotel revenue management process is actually collecting your data. And the vital component here is to be consistent with gathering your data and recording that. And I know REI, you know, you can set some really good parameters with your database collection within that software system. And it's very important that you do that, especially making sure that you track personal emails, not just OTA emails, as well as regions, areas, and source. A source report's really important to pull that up. You know, there's so much more information readily available now than there was maybe 5 or 10 years ago. And most of that information's available to you, you know, with a minimal or zero cost. You can access data from multiple sources, internal and external, such as I just mentioned, your REI reports. Google Analytics is another way, review scores, and of course, the OTAs provide great information that are most useful and easily accessible, you know. There's actually the likes of Booking.com, Rate Intelligence, Expedia, RevPar, you know, where you can actually compare your nightly rates against your competitors. That can provide you with market occupancy forecasts, you know. It's really important to access this and know how to go into the extranets to find that information. And you can adjust your rates according to some of this information that you do gather, you know, information such as a length of stay, your booking lead time, where your guests are travelling from, your rate plans and room types, all the information that are most relevant to your guests. Don't also forget that there's your regional tourism bodies and your state tourism bodies that can provide, you know, you with regular statistics on arrival and visitation data into your areas and regions. This information will help you identify and collect future, you know, understand future trends and how you can tap into these markets and potentially increase your overall business. Bearing in mind the statistics and data from this quarter, due to the effects of the COVID restrictions, might not necessarily be a really accurate to be useful for forecasting trends moving forward, we hope. So obviously there's going to be peaks and troughs through your business and through the industry and through environmental effects that are going to affect your data. So very important to understand that. The next slide that we're going to talk about is knowing your competitors. So you need to understand any benchmarking or an analysis would be ineffective if you are comparing your property with the wrong comp set or the competitive set. It's really crucial to benchmark your property against the right comp set, maybe 4 to 6 competitors that you feel in your market. But also, it's also very rare to find a comp set where every single property in your set can be considered to be 100% competitive to your asset across all of their parameters. So therefore, it's really important to take into consideration these factors when establishing your own comp set. And the 4 main components around that is your proximity. So that's obviously your geographic proximity to your other competitors, displaying similar attributes. The positioning of your property, such as, you know, whether you classify yourselves as a, you know, budget property or an upper scale, mid scale, you know, and that might be reflective of your facilities, your room sizes, whether you have restaurants on site, whether you have conferencing facilities, that type of thing. You know, you need to just understand the positioning that you sit in your marketplace and what type of person's attracted to or guest is attracted to your property. The product, so, you know, the condition of your product, you know, the quality of that, the upkeep, how old the property is, the overall conditions of that, and the price. So room rate, you know, plays a really important role in anyone's decision to book, but it's not always a true reflection of the scale and quality of your property. So the rate can vary between 2 similar properties that are in close proximity. So it's not always a good indication to just use price to set your comp set. And aside from those 4 Ps as such, the online reputation of your property is another important factor with knowing your comp set. So a property's online reputation has a really significant influence with a potential guest's decision-making process. A higher rating on, say, TripAdvisor as an example may show you can command a better price and possibly then cater to a different market segment or demand segment than a similarly positioned property 2 blocks away from you with similar offerings. So, you know, reputation is a really important component with conversion of business. You should monitor your key competitors, their rates, and their online reviews as regularly as you can. You know, there's no set component about it, but the more regularly that you can monitor that is going to give you a better understanding of your placement and your rates and offerings in the marketplace. The next slide is really understanding your rates. It's really important to understand your rates and the commissions that come off from different market segments. Obviously, we can see here our bar is our sell rate. You know, your direct is obviously what sort of discounted or packaged rate that you have set up. Your corporate can be 5 or 10% commissionable off your bar rate or your best available rate. The government rate's usually around 15 to 20%. Groups and leisure agencies are 20%. And your wholesale and inbound 25 to 30% if you've got contracting with those guys. So it's very important to understand that if you do have contracts in place and that you do discounting, that those commission levels are also coming off from those contracts as well, from those companies that are contracted with you. And really, the next slide we're just going to show a really important rate matrix that we use a lot with our clients. It just helps you understand the net rates that you're going to be getting in your hand from the different market segments that you sell to, and obviously different room categories, and obviously a different length of stays. So this is a really good graph to base your rates around, or to understand how you're going to look at that. The next slide, here's a big one. How do I set my rates? So there's several factors that impact your room pricing, or what you set your room rates at, and that's your room categories or your room types, the value of the service you can offer, your location, your occupancy, your market demand and supply, your competitors' pricing, your seasonality, etc. So that is why we've started this component of the slideshow with how important it is to obtain your data, because without that data and that information, it's very hard to set your rates and understand your rates. And setting rates is not an easy task, and it can take you quite some time, and it will change depending on what's happening in the marketplace. So it's really important to analyse and segment your channels. You need to have a clear idea of who you should be targeting and consider which distribution channels you should use to attract your guests. You need to understand, firstly, who are your guests, and that's why your data is so important. What are their different needs and budget levels, and how you can adjust your rates and marketing to suit each market segment in order to maximise your revenue. So important data. Another component is to benchmark your rates against your competitors. So doing regular rate checks across your key competitors will help you benchmark your rates against your competitive set. So just remember, not every guest wants the lowest rate, as we've just discussed previously, as many guests would take an option of a value add package instead of a price discount. The challenge for you as property owners is to learn how to identify which of your customers or guests are willing to pay more and which are not. So don't compromise on your unique selling points, which is why you need to know what your 4 Ps are. Guests are willing to pay a little more for better, maybe location, views, facilities, restaurants, unique components within your room or your location or your meeting facilities. You need to understand and really go for those key selling points. Another really important component, which relates to your TripAdvisor reviews, except your reputation management, is to offer really, really good customer service, which I think is going to be more and more important moving into these times we're going into. And that can be a key selling point for your property as well. Market demand is another component. So are you up to date with the current tourism statistics, which is what we just discussed on the previous slides, and you can get them from quite a few different sources. Another area is STR data, which I don't think I mentioned in the previous slide. That's also a really good sort of software to sign up to, and they benchmark your occupancy and average daily rate against your market or your region, and they'll do that for you if you put in your statistics every month. That's actually a really interesting one to be part of. So your regional tourism organisations, we've discussed, your tourism bodies, all these guys provide regular reports on both international, which aren't going to be much at the moment, and domestic arrivals and visitations. So in the current market, just remember that it takes twice as long to build up your average daily rate. So be careful on how you position yourself in the marketplace. The market will pick up eventually, so just focus on having the best rates to attract bookings. Maybe, you know, 4 to 6 months out, I don't know, that's a bit of a guesstimation at this point in time, but be flexible with your rates and your cancellation policies, which we'll touch on in a slide a little bit later on. So our next slide is some ideas on some pricing strategies. So one area is, you know, competitors-based pricing, which we've talked about with your 4 Ps as well. So you need to understand what your competitors are doing or offering, and this will help you compete successfully in the marketplace or your marketplace. So you need to monitor your competitors' room rate regularly and understand their pricing strategy. Constant monitoring will help you understand what guests are paying and what they're willing to pay for a room or an apartment. And you can devise your pricing strategies to gain a head start among your competitors. You can define a list or list your competitors based on factors such as property type, room rates, star categories, offerings and discounts, promotion channels. Hence, it's really important to consider all these factors and oversee relevant competitors to set a pricing strategy. So as an example, when doing your comps checks, you come to know when they're offering a complimentary service, like maybe a one-time free breakfast or free transfer, or if you've got spas, you know, like a free massage. They're all just examples to those who are booking well in advance and long-staying guests. Hence, you can set pricing and even create packages accordingly to that, you know. So packaging is a really good way to do it, and a lot of people don't do enough packaging, I think, especially on their direct. I think it's a real hook to get people in. I guess segment-based pricing is another option of your pricing strategy. So to build an effective pricing strategy, it's necessary to understand the different market segments. You can sell the same room at a different price for different guests. So these guests can differ such as their age or their taste or the purpose of their visit, their lifestyle, location, their occupation. They can all be, you know, swing a guest's ability or desire to pay a certain nightly rate. And you can observe the type of guests at your property and then plan and set a pricing strategy for those who bring you, you know, business or good business or have that demand for your property. So once again, this comes down to making sure that you track your guest data as well as you can via your PMS systems. And really important, then you'll get an idea of what type of guest does come to your property. So our next slide is going on to a third pricing strategy. So you can look at forecasting-based pricing. So forecasting is an important factor to consider for setting the price of rooms for future dates. So always use previous data, such as occupancy or data from previous months or years, different types of room sales as per the demand or promotions or seasons. So you can change the room rates based on upcoming demand or expected occupancy. So, you know, as an example, in this current climate, most of us would be hoping that come September school holidays, we'd have a fairly good demand for leisure properties. So we can maybe look at that down the track and make sure we actually look at our pricing and our room categories in regard to that pricing. now for that time of year so we can maximise our daily rate based on demand for that period. Length of stay based pricing. So the length of stay ideally depends on the number of nights in packages you're offering to your guests. An advantage of the length of stay pricing is that guests are offered one simple rate for their entire stay based on their arrival date and their total reservation length of stay. The best time to apply this type of strategy is during, say, festivals or school holidays, which we just mentioned. So you might want to put a 5-night minimum, September holidays as an example. You want guests to stay for a minimum of 3 or 4 nights as an example at your property. You can modify the room pricing based on the maximum or minimum length of stay to increase occupancy and business return on investment in most cases. The fifth example of pricing strategies is your occupancy-based pricing. So occupancy-based pricing is the most effective if you want to increase room revenue. You can set the pricing of your rooms based on the demand and supply of your actual rooms. And it doesn't have to be a general pricing across all your rooms. It might be just, as an example, on your 1-bedroom apartments in school holidays, which may not have as high a demand as your 2 or 3-bedroom apartments. They're just examples. So wherever there is a heightened demand, you can increase your room rates for more business and return on investment. Alternatively, when there's an off-season or lower demand, maybe reduce your room rates to fill your rooms or gain profit in the off-seasons, which a lot of us do, but we don't want to resort to that all the time as well. So there's just fors and against of different types of pricing, and the next slide is obviously static versus a dynamic rate. So this is a static rate. So static rate's just a rate where you hold the same room nightly rate and you don't change it. So it stays the same, and there's pros and cons for both static and dynamic pricing. So the pros obviously for static pricing is, the ability to work with key partners and with guests who want to book in advance. So they know what price they're paying, and that doesn't change at all. So they know that they're getting the best price for that period that they want to book. And static rates are mostly based off your bar rates, which is like the graph we just went through. So therefore, you know in advance what the rate will be and will be able to budget and forecast accordingly. And it provides consistency. Your guests aren't going to ring up and go, oh, but I booked it now, and then there's a cheaper rate, 2 weeks out. The cons, which we need to really be mindful of in this period especially, is they need to change annually or biannually. It is very restrictive to have a static rate. The accommodation provider or your hotel owner as such has less control over your rates and therefore may minimise your overall profit. The rates can only be decreased by adding promotions, not by demand. And stop sell must be issued if the hotel wants to yield pricing. So the next table we're going to is actually dynamic pricing. It's the pros and cons of dynamic, which dynamic means you change your rates around dependent on supply and demand. And so the pros of this type of pricing is allowing your pricing to affect the demand, the ability to maximise profit at any time of year. It's immediate and provides more insights into your guests' booking behaviour. The cons of dynamic pricing: it may reduce customer loyalty, increase competition, and may lead to a loss of sale if your prices drop and people don't like the fact that they've booked something and it's cheaper or more expensive, probably cheaper usually, obviously not more expensive, when they do that. So the next slide is about yielding. So yield management is where we want to change rates, or how we know when to change rates. So it's really about the process of understanding, anticipating and influencing customer or consumer behaviour to maximise yield or profits from a fixed perishable resource such as property, hotel rooms and apartments. The idea is to coordinate the timing, the price and the consumer buying patterns to achieve the best return. So yielding is not just about putting price up and down. You've got to consider timing, which might be, you might be looking at events and special events and school holidays and seasons and environmental factors. Your pricing and your consumer buying patterns. So you need to understand length of stays, who's travelling when, what type of people are looking to stay at your property, all those sorts of things we talked about earlier in the slideshow with data. So properties do use yield management to calculate rates, rooms and restrictions on sales in order to best maximise their return. So it's really important to know all this information when you are going to look at yielding. Some strategies to consider along these lines. So once you understand your business mix, like such as your market segments and your source, etc., and demand, including all your different seasons, your events, environmental factors, etc., yield management comes into play. So it's not just about increasing your room rates, it's about understanding who will buy at what rate and when. So here's some factors you should consider when optimising for yield. Special rates for multiple room stays, reward long-staying guests with upgrades, special packages tied up around seasonality and events, such as Mother's Day as an example, special rates for groups, tours, airlines and conferences, high versus low season rates as such, applied days of the week rates. So the same as you would as in high versus low. So often in low season we'll have a minimal demand Sunday to Thursday. So you may want to apply a low season rate for those sort of 4 nights out of the week as an example. Use room types to distinguish rates and provide value. So as I mentioned earlier, there could be certain room types or categories that are distressed stock at different times of the year. So don't blanket discount or yield. Room categories and types vary as much as they do the season. Focus on direct versus commission heavy bookings. Really important to look at your direct business. Leverage your online reputation to your advantage. So guests are more likely to book with you if you have great reviews and you monitor them and respond to them, which is really important as well. And don't discount upselling and cross-selling in your strategy to improve yield. So they're just some little key takeaways with yield management. So our next slide specific to rates in a post-COVID world, which we're all in. Just a few little key points for you guys to think about with managing your tariffs and your rates. It's really important to have fully flexible options. So guests are worried that their travel plans may have to change and they won't want to be stuck with a non-refundable rate or package that they can't change. You don't have to have these available 7 days a week. Just use them to attract guests to your lower occupancy periods or days. Put a premium on fully flexible rates. Don't drop your other ones. So, you might want to have to set up 2 different types of rate plans. It's more important now than ever to keep an eye on what your competitors are doing, as we talked about in earlier slides, and think about what other regions you are also competing with as well. So it's not just about in your block or your immediate area, it's about your region as well. Hold your rates, which is what we were just talking about with yield management. So don't race to the bottom. While you may not be able to command the same margins in the short term that you have made in the past, don't drop your rates so much that it will be difficult to raise them again once borders are fully open and travel both domestically and international becomes accessible again. Think beyond your rates. What is important to guests in the current climate apart from price? Really important components of this is your cleanliness standards, which we all know we've had guidelines from our government departments about that. The safety, social distancing, if you've got facilities that are really well spaced in your property, that's going to be an advantage for you. If you've got room around your pool area or 3 or 4 different pool sections and separate gyms, indoor, outdoor pools, etc. Great customer service, which we've touched on just before. Use these as your unique selling points as well. So one of our current clients has 4 different pool areas. So we're actually focusing marketing activities around that space, and not being able to be, the client or potential guest to being worried about being crowded with other people in that area. Maybe have a think about what your unique selling points may be in this different world we're in. So just a few takeaways. These aren't always set in mud now with our current climate, because there's a lot of unknown moving forward into this world we're in in the tourism industry. So it's going to be you've got to have a lot of flexibility around what you're doing, and there'll be a lot of trial and error around this as well. So some takeaways are: set the price of your most basic room at the lowest price possible, and maybe this is a suggestion only, price your other rooms close to your competitors' basic room prices. This may allow you to capture a middle market as well as the lower and higher ends all in one go. Compete based on value. So part of price optimization is understanding when you do not necessarily have to compromise on your pricing. So by offering value-added extras, you'll set a standard at your property that is a higher value and therefore worth paying more. Be sure to deliver on your value promises. It's really important. Maybe try multiple pricing strategies. For example, adjust your prices on the basis of your guests' length of stay, maybe. Offer packages or value adds. Segment your customers and offer different rates to each customer segment, maybe. These are just suggestions. A few more suggestions and takeaways. While historical data is dependable, or has been in the past, and may not necessarily be on this last quarter, we hope, you can't place all your stock in it. You need to respond to current events and trends, as we're in now, to make sure you don't miss an opportunity. Also, monitoring events and activities in your local area will let you design an attractive promotions and around these. You can also look at what promotions and emails your competitors are pushing out, maybe, as well as any new channels or newsletters in your destination for early warning or demand. Don't assume that holding rates constant when demand drops is wrong. Studies have shown that hotels that engage in pricing policies where they don't discount rates to fill rooms and offer higher rates than their competitors get higher RevPARs. So dropping rates relative to competitors only helps hoteliers gain market share, does not allow them to get higher RevPARs than their competitive set. So ultimately, holding relative rates constant when demand goes down is not a bad revenue strategy. Manage your distribution channels smartly. So leverage the targeting capabilities of each OTA to your advantage. Understand how certain OTAs perform with booking windows and geographic region. For example, some OTAs are good at booking further out and some appeal to last minute bookers more so. That'll help you yield your rates more effectively. So on the OTA note, I'm now going to hand over to my right-hand lady, Naomi, here, and she's going to talk about who's who in the zoo from the OTA component. And off you go, Naomi. Thanks, everyone. We'll talk to you in a minute.
Thanks, Kim. Okay, that was fantastic. I hope you all got some great tips out of that one. And I'm going to talk about everyone's favourite subject, the OTAs. Just a little bit funny, actually, not having you all in front of me, because normally I can read on your faces like, oh, the OTAs. Oh, dear, here we go. What can I do about them? But first up, great big shout out to James and Liz in the Pilbara region who are listening to us today. It was great for you to make contact and tell me that you're out there. I hope business picks up for you shortly. Okay, so like I said, we're going to spend some time today talking about the world of OTAs. Who are they, what they do, and why we need them. So hopefully by the end of today's chat, you'll have a better understanding of how you can harness the OTAs to benefit your business and learn that they're actually a much needed part of the supply and demand chain in the world of us accommodation providers. So what is an OTA? And I am going to dumb this down really quickly because after doing this job for quite a while, I realized that we use a lot of jargon, a lot of acronyms, and not everyone understands every acronym that we use. So OTA, basically it is an online travel agency. It's a website that specializes in the sale of travel products to consumers. Some of these agents sell a variety of travel products such as flights, hotels, car rentals, cruises, etc. And some sell experiences and tours. And most of you will now know that a lot of the big guys actually sell the whole lot. They don't want to miss out on a penny. But in all that cases, the travel agency has an agreement with tour or activity providers to resell their products where the agency takes payment from the consumer and then pays a net rate to the provider. Okay, so yeah, let's talk about what you've signed up to when you sign up to OTA companies that in the accommodation industry we all use, namely Booking.com, Expedia, What If, and so forth. Okay, so first up, do they all do the same thing? So in today's world, there appears to be hundreds and thousands of choices of online travel agents, and often you'll receive bookings via a company that you've never heard of. So you kind of think, how did they get my rates? You'll also notice that we now have OTAs, meta search engines, and many other different types of online booking systems. So the simple answer to the question is, do they all do the same thing? No. Some just sell hotels, some sell flights, some sell flights, hire car and accommodation. We've got our experiences. They're basically looking to sell the consumer the best deal possible. So for the purpose of today, we're going to focus mainly on a traditional OTA, such as Booking.com or Expedia, although it is important to note that many of those traditional OTAs are now encompassing a secondary function of a meta search engine, which is really just their way of ensuring that they're always displaying the best price available in the retail space for your product. So as we said, traditional OTAs, the examples of those would be Expedia and Booking.com. Your meta search sites or price comparison sites are people like Kayak, and the best known one of all, of course, is Trivago. And I'm sure the moment I say that word, you've all got an image of a brunette woman walking through hotels and other spaces around the world on your television every night. Now, these sites allow you to compare pricing between different sites, but it might be worth checking into who owns it before you decide whether or not you're actually getting a true representation of best prices. So I'll give you a hint with that. Our friends at Trivago are owned by a company that starts with an E and ends with Expedia. So is it a true and fair representation? I'm not really sure. So then you've got your review sites, which Kim spoke about really quickly, and reputation and whatnot. So you've got TripAdvisor. So it started its life as a traditional review site, but it's morphed into a hybrid review site, meta search site, and OTA. Everyone loves a review site until you get a bad review. Then they're the enemy. Perhaps it's our way of thinking that needs to change, not the platform that we're fighting. Review sites, even with a bad review, can be a powerful marketing tool as long as you're willing to embrace the opportunities to talk about your product from a good start or a bad start. But this is a topic I could talk about all day, and it's not one that we're here to discuss, so let's keep going. So back to OTAs. The most surprising thing you may not know is that many of these companies are all owned by just two parent companies, Booking Holdings and the Expedia Group. Okay, so this is a really simplified version of what the duopoly of OTA worldwide looks like. In actual fact, both Booking Holdings and Expedia Group own many, many different companies. And the other thing you'll find is a brand new little booking agent or OTA will pop up somewhere, and one of these big boys will buy them to either take into their portfolio or basically merge them in, and you'll never hear about them again. Why do they do this? Because they're either going to lose their market share, or because they think it's a very IT savvy company that they want to own the IP for. So yeah, you'll see here we've got the Expedia Group, as I mentioned, own Trivago. They of course own Expedia, they own Orbitz, they've got hotels.com, they bought the Australian brand What If. Lots of different properties, lots of different companies there that they own. And Booking Holdings, they've got Booking.com, Agoda, rentalcars.com, hotels combined. So really important to know that most of the OTAs that are booking you individually actually belong to one of these two big companies. Okay, so state of play in Australia over the last 12 months, the top 15 travel sites. Number 1, no guesses, no prizes for guessing that one, booking.com. Number 2 is Expedia. Now, if we were in the United States, that would be turned on its head. It would be Expedia at number 1 and booking.com number 2. But what it shows in huge markets, that those two dominate the market. Thirdly, which is really, really interesting and really positive, is that your hotel website normally holds number 3 spot, which is really encouraging, I think. And it also it leads itself to how important it is to have a great website and a really good booking engine associated with your product. Now, the other really interesting thing here is out of number 1 and number 2, so the sum of those two companies and the amount of money they make every year, the rest of the table don't quite meet that amount. So they are holding a massive share of the market, and it's going to be fairly hard to do business without being involved with either of those companies. Okay, so moving on, we're now going to look at whether they're friend or foe. So I find when I'm out and about and talking to people, when the dreaded word OTA is raised in a conversation, we tend to hear, oh, bloody OTAs, they're money hungry so-and-sos, I just don't want to deal with them, they don't care about us, the little man, they do what they want without any repercussions, I hate them, and so on and so on. I personally like to call them my frenemies. It's a bit like the saying, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. Companies just like the OTAs have been in existence since the dawn of travel. There's always been wholesalers and travel agents selling your product and earning commission on the sale. I myself remember back to my early days, just 1 or 2 years ago in the industry, where I worked for a large wholesaler and we charged a flat 10% commission as well as thousands of dollars to be in a glossy brochure. So commissions and fees to on-sell your product are nothing new, and it's probably just more prevalent in a world where the internet is king. I like to think of our current situation with the OTAs as living in harmony with each other. Most hoteliers don't have $12 million a month to spend on Google AdWords, millions of dollars to spend on cutting-edge technology and booking platforms. You don't have the money to translate your website into dozens of languages, among the other attributes that OTAs bring to the table. So why are you trying to fight the might and power? Think about your 15% commission, which is the average. And yes, I know it can go upwards and it can be a little bit lower depending on who you're dealing with. But think about that 15% commission as payment towards that massive advertising power and market reach. And to me, that's actually money well spent. I personally love the billboard effect that the OTAs create for your business. Again, think about it this way. Once upon a time, in a world not so long ago, if you're a small independent accommodation provider in a beachside town, you would have paid significant money to secure a roadside billboard advertising your property to grab attention of drive market holidaymakers. This is one way to look at the OTAs. Use them as a way to be seen. Get your name and product in front of people, but the catch is you have to pay for this service. Nothing in life is free, or so the saying goes. Instead of forking out money on a billboard that you don't know whether or not it's actually working, you're instead paying for a service that you only pay for if it works. Yep, that's right. You only pay when someone books through the site. If no one books, you don't pay. So it's your job to look good on an OTA, capture the attention of the guest, and then drive them back to your own site or your phone or your email. So it's about securing that booking via the OTA and holding on to it for dear life. Okay, so next up, let's talk about, do I need them? I think I've already explained that yes, you do. So let's talk advertising costs. In 2018, Booking Holdings spent Expedia spent $9.8 billion on advertising activities, including but not limited to Google advertising, TV ads, social media, print media, and so on. How much did you spend? Can you match that? I know Koncept Konnect can't. So for all of us here today, that's simply an impossibility. And we're back to the age-old question of, do I really need the OTAs? Of course you do. Is it worth 15% of your sale price to have a piece of this advertising spend? Of course it is. Many operators have been in the industry for a long time, and you can fortunately or unfortunately remember when there wasn't much choice in accommodation. There was no internet. Leisure guests stayed primarily Saturday to Saturday, and word of mouth or being in the yellow pages was enough to get a good flow of bookings coming directly to your phone or your fax machine, if you could afford one of those fancy fandangle contraptions. Today's market is fast, it's ever-changing, it's full of choices, and travellers decide today to go on holiday tomorrow, and that's especially important of this time post-COVID-19. They rarely make plans 3 months out, and they have very clearly defined ideas of what they want, and quite often they're not willing to budge. Add to all of this that they have the latest and greatest technology at their fingertips, in most cases a mobile phone, to make their booking the moment they have 5 minutes to think about it. How are you going to attract that audience to your property without millions of dollars spent on technology? Being the first in an internet search where you're competing with so many others and generally looking great in the digital world. That 15% that you're going to pay the OTAs should be starting to look a bit more attractive once you've pondered these questions. Okay, so we've decided the simple answer to the question is, do I need them? Is yes. Should you rely on them entirely? No, of course you shouldn't. Ensure your own website is attractive and functional. Ensure your direct customers keep coming back to you directly and tell all of their friends and families to do the same. Ensure you're maintaining other relationships to encourage your bookings. But yes, you need travel agents, both online and offline, to ensure the longevity of your business. In the days of the yellow pages, your direct bookings were probably around 60% to 70% of your total occupancy, while travel agents of all other kinds provided the other 20 to 30%. This has now officially been turned on its head. We can whinge about it all we like, but it's a fact of life, and you can expect your OTA business to be around 60% of your total market. So the cold hard fact that it is that yes, you need the OTAs. Okay, so moving on from that, we are going to have a look at parity, that dreadful, dreadful word that we all hear. You're out of parity. So what is parity? Rate parity, quite simply, is a legal agreement between hotels and an online travel agency in which the hotel guarantees to use the same rate and terms for a specific room type regardless of the distribution channel. Okay, so we know that. Is it legally enforceable? Well, I'm not a lawyer, so please don't take this as you know, legal word, but this is a really grey area, and in a true legal sense, I believe that you will find there is no price parity in Australia, and it is no longer a legal requirement of your signed agreement with the OTAs. However, will it affect your business if you're not offering price parity? Yes, it will. So why is it so important? If it's not a legal requirement, why do you have to do it? If you don't provide rate parity, there are several things that will happen. You will suddenly find that you're not as visible on particular OTA sites. So what, you say, does it matter? Of course it does. If you're not visible, you're not going to get booked. Most travellers don't actually know which property they want to stay at. They just have a really solid idea of the geographical area, the activities they want to do, and the basic amenities they desire. And from there, they search for somewhere to stay. Their search history also matters as to whether or not you'll be highly visible. I would assume that nearly all of us here send out all of our rates via a channel manager, whether it be SiteMinder, HighSite, all of those different channel managers, which means that in most cases, we're giving all third parties exactly the same rate. So are we meeting parity? Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, we are. So why is this rate business subject driving us all crazy and taking up so much of our time? So if you continue to find that you're getting emails and phone calls from OTAs suggesting that your pricing is not the same across all platforms, there are a number of things that could be happening. Have you offered a cheeky little sale or promotion on one channel, say on booking.com, and not offered it to Expedia and Agoda? Have you joined a members group such as Genius or Expedia members and not offered it across the board? If you can definitely say I'm not doing any of this, then it will be one of the OTAs offering a promotion directly and using their commission to lower the price, or a wholesaler on selling your wholesale rate into the retail space. In all of these cases, it can be very hard to track down exactly why it's happening and how to fix it. But should you persevere? Yes, you definitely should. Okay, so what it does, if you're not meeting those rate parity issues, is you're going to end up with no visibility. So you won't be on page 1, and we all know what's on page 2. Well, actually, nobody knows what's on page 2 because none of us have ever been there. So you want to be on page 1 all the time. You don't have to be in the first 2 or 3 spots, but you want to be on page 1. If you're not in rate parity, or you're not in room parity, or you're not on all the members and everything's not equal across your OTAs, you are going to lose visibility. You lose visibility, no one's going to book you. So that's why your parity is so, so important. Okay, so you will see here on this page that I'm showing you now on our little slide, why is rate parity important? This is from booking.com. So it's found in the analytics tab and it's called your rankings dashboard. So basically the OTAs use algorithms to grade how you get found on their websites. The higher your algorithm or sort order, the more visible you will be. To ensure your sort order, page ranking, or whatever you want to call it, is as high as possible, you need to make sure that you have the areas above as high as possible. However, you also have to remember that there is no such thing as position 1, 2, 3 anymore. And a lot of hoteliers get really caught up on this. They say when they come on board and retain our services, they say to me, Naomi, I want to be number 1 on booking.com. And I'm like, well, that's all well and good, but it's very, very difficult to be number 1 on booking.com because there's a lot of factors that go into that. So in days gone by, if my good friend Kim here and I did a search on booking.com, and we did it both from our own homes, on our own home computers, and we searched for accommodation on the Gold Coast, we would get exactly the same rankings on our page. What was at number 1 on my computer would be number 1 on her computer. In this day and age, with all the intelligence that is around search engines, if we do the same search today, exactly the same in google.com, we go into Google, we do our search, and we put in exactly the same search parameters, we will get very, very different, very different hotels displayed to us. Because what happens is it will do a search on what we have both searched in the last 14 days to get an idea as a consumer what we want to buy. So if I spend my days having a look at Kmart Mums and cheapest place to buy eggs and, you know, how can I get the most bang for my buck and living on a budget and all of those types of sites. And Kim, however, spends her day looking at Louis Vuitton and going on, you know, 5-star holidays, and she wants to buy a new Mercedes and all of those sorts of things. We will actually get very different searches because the search engine picks up that Kim's going to spend different money to what I'm going to spend. So we might both put in accommodation on the Gold Coast and her number 1 choice might be Versace. I might get a little, you know, 3-star property down around Coolangatta somewhere instead that, you know, is fairly budget and suits my needs. So it's really important to understand that you cannot, unless you buy it outright, you are not going to be able to rank number 1 on every search that happens. Your product has to suit the consumer. Okay, so really important to take that away. So price parity, yes, you must be in price parity where possible. It is very difficult to control. It is very frustrating and it is very time consuming, but it is very important for all the reasons we've just outlined. And I'll be quite upfront and honest, my team in our ecom team at Koncept Konnect spend a lot of time sorting out rate parity issues for our clients, but really, really, really important in this day and age to keep on top of it. So how do we make the most out of the OTAs? We've decided that we've got to have them. We can't live without them. And we just need to get on with life and make sure we're using them to the best of our ability. So number 1, no matter how much we whinge and moan, like I said, actually I call them my frenemies. So let's talk about our frenemies. They're not going anywhere. They're going to change. They're going to evolve, but they are a fact of life and we need to work with them to sell our products on a global scale. So number 1, stop treating them as the enemy. I think that's the mindset we all have to get out of, is they're not going anywhere. So we can whinge and moan and carry on as much as we like about them, but they're here to stay. So let's just find some ways to work with them. So as we've already discussed, think about them as a billboard at the edge of town advertising your property. Make your listing look as good as possible. Ensure that all of your third-party sites are consistent, so same photos across the board. You don't want to confuse your consumer. And offer exactly the same information. Make sure all of your content looks exactly the same and says the same thing. Promotions. Okay, so this is a great way to maximize OTA potential and get higher up the sort order. For years, we've all been guilty, and Koncept Konnect was a little bit the same for a while. We just placed our specials and promotions directly into our PMS or our channel manager and fed the rates out. This actually does nothing to convert bookers on the OTA sites. In fact, the OTAs will have no idea that it's a special rate at all because it just feeds through as another rate plan. So if you use the extranet, which is what we call the back end of any of the OTAs, when you can sign on directly at the OTA to your listing, if you use the extranet specials, it will add to your ranking algorithm and tag the specials so the booker knows what the rate is a deal. At the end of the day, the OTAs want to offer their consumers the best possible deal. They want them to book on their site because then they get to make commission, and that's how they stay in business. So don't be afraid of these specials, but be smart. You may have to be strategic with your rates. You may have to pick a room that you're happy to be a loss leader, much like the supermarkets, and this will ensure that you have great exposure. Think about what room type you could use to create some great specials. Have you got a room type that doesn't sell as well as the others? Use it as a hook to lure guests to your product through a great deal. The other thing you can look at adding, which Kim touched on in rates, is packages and value adds. Most of the OTAs don't just sell standalone hotel room nights, as we discussed. They provide dynamic packaging to their customers, bundling a hotel stay with flights or car rental into a single price. This bundled pricing enables hotels to build differential pricing that gets used in packages without affecting your standalone rates. So it's really good to go into other markets. The Australian market tends to be standalone. People will book everything separately. The North American market, however, which, yes, I know they're not coming here at the moment, but they'll be allowed back in one day, I'm sure. So when they come, they tend to just book everything in a package. They don't want to book everything separately. They just want to go onto Expedia or one of the other big OTAs and choose a package. So they pick a hotel, they pick car hire, they pick some theme park entry passes, they bundle it all together and they pay one price and they're done. So really important that you have some ability to do some packages. And quite often that will be referred to as fenced deals, opaque deals, package path. That's what those sorts of terms mean. Then you have your discounting. Yep, I know you're all going to say, but they just want more discounts. And all of the examples you see on this slide, which I'm going to talk about in a moment, they all offer discounting. There's sales and promotions that we're always asked, can you give us more discount? Sometimes it's way too much and simply unaffordable, particularly for those properties who might be listening to us today that are from strata management hotels. You've got owners to pay, you've got all sorts of things going on and you can't necessarily afford to discount across the board. But think outside the box. Use some new rate plans. Talk to a specialist like us. Make the OTA campaigns work for you. Once you turn your thinking around to see the OTA as an opportunity, you may just be surprised at your creativity to, what I like to say, use and abuse them for the good of your own business. So my hints here are, use what they offer. This was taken from booking.com before COVID set in on us, and it's their campaigns. And you'll see they had an early 2020 deal, they had a getaway deal, and they had a breakaway deal. Now, some of these deals want you to offer at least a minimum of 20%. So set up a rate plan that can afford to offer the 20%. Make sure it doesn't look stupid in with your other rates, but use it to work for you. You don't just have to apply these promotions to your normal rates or to your advanced purchase rates or your cheapest rates in the market. Use them where you need them. The other thing is blackout weekends. If you don't want to give them weekend rates, black out the weekends. If these strategies didn't work and make money for the OTAs, they wouldn't offer it to us. So there's something in their method that this is what travellers want, or it's a slow period, and it's probably your slow period too. So like I've said, tweak the deals to work harder for you. Offer the minimum discount, but put it on a room that doesn't sell particularly well. Be strategic. Think about what you're doing. Think about what you actually want to gain. For a lot of my clients, our clients, I actually say to them, I go into these sales, these campaigns that you can see on the screen here, particularly flash deals. I actually don't want to sell a room when I'm on that flash deal, but I want people to see us and that they want them to book for later on in the year when they're traveling. So it's a way to be visible. So think outside the box. Don't necessarily go, oh my God, I'm going to lose 40% of every booking that I get during that flash sale. No, let's look at that as going, hey, people are going to see me during this flash sale and hopefully book for later in the year when I've got a slow period. So lots to think about there. And my big takeaway is think outside the box, think strategically, and make it work for you. Okay, so just some hints and tips following up from this. Managing your online reviews. We need to really look at that, and Kim touched on it really quickly. Online reviews count to your algorithms. It doesn't matter if it's a bad review, it won't necessarily rank you further down, but if you don't answer it, it will. You need to answer it, you need to respond to it, and you need to not get into an argument. Remember, reviews aren't actually about the person that put them up there, they're about the people reading them that are coming to visit. So if you can answer a bad review in a timely, polite but assertive manner, you're going to get people out of that because they're going to go, okay, well, if that happened, these people have actually dealt with it. So it's not about the reviewer, it's about the people who are coming to stay and are reading those reviews. They, like I said, they are really, really important. The OTA wants its customers to have an on-property experience that matches the expectations, and the OTAs will push customers to properties with better reputations. So if you're not answering your reviews and they're not always good and they are dropping you down the rankings, again, you're losing your visibility. Keep up to date. If you can't do this, consider someone who can do it for you. Someone like, I don't know, Koncept Konnect maybe. You need to keep up to date with trends. You need to refresh your content. You can't just set and forget. In this day and age of internet is king, you set and forget, you will be gone. Right down the bottom of listings. You need to be continually updating your site. You need to be refreshing your content. You need to make sure your site looks as good as it possibly can be. If your billboard going into town had big tears across it, bird poo all over it, and someone had got up with a graffiti can, no one's going to stay with you. Same thing for your OTA listing. Make it look as good as you possibly can. So it's all about conversion. The better job your listing does at converting, the more likely it is to be shown higher in the results. Statistics show that full room and property descriptions on the OTA listings, as opposed to partial descriptions, increase conversions by 5%, and doubling your number of good photos can increase a booking rate by 4.5%. So consider what the guest is going to see when you upload everything to the OTAs. Think about someone searching for your hotel and how they'll see your property, and adjust your images and your content accordingly. Have the best images you can afford. I cannot stress this enough. We so often see photos. I'll say to someone, can you send me through all your images so I can have a look at them? And they're all taken on their iPhone 7. Sorry, that doesn't cut it in today's market. You have to have really good images. I'm not saying spend $20,000, but go out and spend the best money that you can. Talk to us. We've got some great photographers that we can suggest. And they need to be hotel photographers, not wedding cake photographers, not children's photographers. You need specialist photographers to come out and do this so that we see your property in the best light. So, one little hint though with your photos. If you're in a management rights property or a property that has rooms that look different to each other, so you're not in a standard hotel with standard hotel rooms, don't ever put your best room on your listing. Because guess what everyone's going to want when they arrive? They want the room they saw in the photos. So pick something about mid-range so that you're not setting expectations of your guests too high. So yeah, definitely a mid-range room there so that when they arrive and they get the best room, they'll be they'll think that all their Christmases have come at once, and you'll get a great review from them. Okay, so to sum up our main takeaways for today, don't be so quick to dismiss the OTAs. Use them to your advantage and think about commissions they charge as a cost of doing business and helping you put your best foot forward. And remember, as soon as that client steps foot through your door, they are yours for the taking. Convert them and their friends and family to your direct bookers of the future. So I do hope that you've managed to take away some really good hints and tips in all of that. Happy to talk to anyone, ask some questions, connect with us, like I said, on LinkedIn or Facebook, and ask some more questions. But I'm going to ask Kim to join our conversation for our next slide, just while we talk about a few things that we've got going on at the moment and who we are. Kim, welcome back. I think you're still muted.
Yeah, I'm unmuted again now. Yeah, sorry guys. So keep forgetting I'm muted totally. Thanks, Naomi. That was great. Yeah, hopefully it's really hard not having faces in front of us. So we're talking to a sort of like a computer screen. We're not used to that, but it may be a way of the future for the short term anyway. So I know on the last webinar we did at for REI that we had quite a few people saying, well, you know, what do you guys actually do? So we at Koncept Konnect, these are some of our core girls that on this next slide, we offer, we're in a team of industry specialists. We've actually got a total of 13 in our team that work for us, but obviously with the, at the moment, there's a few that we are not doing much time because of the actual situation that COVID's inflicted across all our clients. But we offer sales and marketing support solutions. And basically our three little key takeaways is we sort of do what you haven't got time to do from a sales and marketing component, what you don't know how to do or how to get there to do, and what you don't want to do. So I know from a personal experience of running strata properties for sort of 10, 11 years on the Gold Coast that a lot of your time is taken up from an operational side of things, and it needs to be actually. And the important part for you guys as owner operators is to look after your property as such and the upkeep of that, as well as dealing with all your guests that come through the property and offering great customer service, and your owners. Obviously, if you're strata, you've got owners to deal with as well. So the sales and marketing arena has changed a lot and is constantly changing with what's going on from an online perspective as well as you know, in the back end, how a lot of these different segments and platforms work. So it's really important to know the go-to people for each of these areas, and you know, the quickest way of getting resolving issues or getting new platforms set up, etc. So our team compromises a total of 13 in the team, and we offer services across 3 different sections. So we offer services from social communications through to revenue management and e-commerce, and sales and business development. So we do offer corporate as well services and information. So yeah, that's pretty well what we are. And as KK, the next screen is, oh, here we are. So I don't know if some of you guys, we've actually done a couple of, there's some Queensland government grants available at the moment, adaptations grant program. We put a few applications in for some clients and potential clients for round 1. They've just released, I think yesterday or the day before, round 2 will be opening on July 1. So it's probably important to have a look at that and see if you're eligible to apply for that, which I think most of you guys would be, because it's really based around loss of revenue in the short term is your main component of applying for this grant. If you need help with the proposal for this grant, reach out to us and we can help you with that. On the right of that screen is just some of the services that we do offer, support services, short projects and ongoing services, and not wanting to sell steak knives or anything, but we are offering a 20% off for the next, bearing in mind that we know what cash flow problems that everybody will have moving into business operation again in the next couple of months. So we are offering a discount for a restart post-COVID. So if you want information on that, please reach out to us, and here's our details. Naomi or myself, and our email. And feel free to have a look at our website or our Facebook or LinkedIn pages, and if you want to know a little bit more about us. So yeah, Naomi, any more for the wash up? Thank you everyone for joining the webinar, and hopefully we might meet you face to face one day in the near future.
Fantastic. Thanks, Kim. No, I don't really have anything else to offer except to say thanks for listening. And I agree with Kim, it's been a little bit hard. You've been a great audience though, very quiet and listening hard, I hope, because I can't see your faces to know whether or not that's true. But yeah, I'd like to really thank REI Master for having us on today. Thanks, Kelly. It's been an experience.
So we did have obviously an open forum for questions for anyone that's on the webinar. However, we haven't seemed to have got any submitted at this point. So I'm sure there's plenty of questions that they want to ask. So again, obviously Koncept Konnect details are on the screen there for you. But two things that I just wanted to bring up. First of all, I'm sure there's plenty of information that you've been able to take away today in regards to, sales and marketing tips and hints. The two things I wanted to bring up, which you can basically start today, is obviously the OTAs and the content. It's a simple fix, ensuring that that's of high standard and the same content being pushed out to that is a win. The other item I wanted to talk about was the point that Kim brought up with regards to data collection and how important that is. So if your reservations team are not obtaining that information for you or entering it into REI Master, get them to start doing it today. There is specific fields in the REI Master software to be able to put, the personal email, the regions, the source, understanding where your customers are coming from is very, very important. Okay, so I think we may have had a question come in. Just give me 2 seconds. Okay, Naomi or Kim, are you able to see that question?
Yes, I can see it.
Yeah, did one of you want to?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I'll read out the question if you like. So could you please clarify Parity? Are you suggesting Parity across the OTAs or direct as well? Should we have best price guarantee?
No, you go for that.
Yeah, thanks for the question. That's a great one. And rate parity does not have to apply across the OTAs and direct. You should always have the best price guarantee, which can be difficult sometimes, I'll acknowledge, but definitely your price should always be the best. At present, most of the OTAs don't shop your own website, so you should be able to do what you like on there. Occasionally they'll bring it up, but I've always got a great line to come back at them with and just say, we're not comparing apples with apples. So you've got your prices. This is what I'm offering my directs because it's got a slight tweak to it. But no, Rob, definitely not. Have the best price guarantee on your own site, but parity across your OTAs.
Can I just put something in there too? I think really important when you're talking about best price guarantee on direct is to always have a really good value add package on your direct. And that's a way around the OTAs as well, because it's very hard to set up packages on the OTAs, not just a price discount. So the ability to have packaging and value add deals and specials on your direct is an advantage that you do have over the OTAs. So you need to look at it that way as well. I think that's the answer.
Yep. Okay. Another question there. Most resort operators tell me that rate parity was removed as legal requirements by government.
I believe that to be true, but as I said in my talk, I'm not a lawyer and I don't profess to know legalities. But yes, I do believe that it has been completely removed. The point I guess I needed to make is that although it's not a legal requirement, they're still going to penalise you if you don't have rate parity across the OTAs. So forget the legalities. You're not being taken to court, but you're not going to be seen either because they're going to penalise you by not giving you more points in your algorithm to make sure that you're on that first page.
Okay, great. Well, that looks like that's all the questions that we have for today. So to wrap it up, I'd just like to thank Kim and Naomi again for taking the time to share their insights and experience with us today. So I might just shoot over to them again so that they can say their goodbyes and you can again put a face to the name. So Naomi.
Hi, goodbye. Thanks for listening, everyone. I've really enjoyed it. Yeah, it wasn't quite as scary as I thought it was going to be, but I can't wait to see you all face to face again, hopefully soon. And we'll meet up down at REI's office and we can do something a bit more intimate than over the internet. Thanks again for listening. Okay, and Kim from Koncept Konnect.
Thank you everyone for joining the webinar, and thank you Kelly for hosting it. Thanks for Naomi for helping with it all and running the OTA component, the guru of the OTAs. Best wishes to everybody on the webinar, and good luck moving forward into post-COVID. As I said earlier in my introduction, stay well and keep positive, and you know, it will pick up, and we just have to be a little bit more strategic and a little bit more flexible around our sales and marketing moving forward. And hopefully, as I said, you've got some tips and tricks today from both Naomi and I that you can take away and can help your business in the short term. Thanks very much, and hope to meet you all one day soon.
Okay, well, thanks again, Naomi and Kim. Thank you everyone for joining today. Don't forget to subscribe to REI Master's YouTube channel for more insights, and also the REI Master Facebook page to find out when our next webinar will be. Take care and stay safe.